All right, so as you sign in, make sure you go to the course and you click on quiz link and go ahead and take quiz number 2. So the timer is set for 15 minutes, and then raise your hand when you have completed the quiz. So as you sign in, just go to the course and click on quiz link, and it will bring you to the second quiz. Raise your hand when you have completed the quiz. Okay, so on the agenda, go ahead and pull the agenda over. First thing we did was you took quiz number 2. Now let's go ahead and review quiz number 1 from last week. So in quiz 1, here are the questions. So the first one, where will the students access the online test? And the answer is Test Nav. Number 2, indicate the timing of each standard time test. Remember, this is standard time, so for English, 45 minutes, math is 60, science 35, and reading is 35. Question 3, in what order must the 4 tests be given? Drag the subject names in the correct order from first to fourth, or first to last. So it's English, math, reading is third, and science is last. Question 4, true or false, a room has students with timing code 6. Suppose on test 1, which is 70 minutes for timing code 6, the last student finishes the test in less than 40 minutes. All students have completed the test. You are allowed to move to test 2. True or false? The answer is false. So remember, the students cannot move on to the next test unless the standard time allotted has expired. So for test 1, which is English, the standard time is 45 minutes. So since the last student finished in 40 minutes, you have to wait another 5 minutes to get to the 45 before moving on to test number 2. Number 5, list the authorized timing with the timing code. So standard time is timing code 1. And those 3 that I had were pretty easy because see timing code 2, double, timing code 3, triple. So standard time is timing code 1, double time over multiple days, standard timing code 2, and then triple time over multiple days, timing code 3. Number 6, the computer will keep track of time for all online tests except for 2 timing codes. And the 2 timing codes are timing code 6 and timing code 7. So the room supervisor has to keep track of those 2 timing codes. Test Nav does not accurately keep track for timing code 6 and timing code 7. So timing code 6, for example, for the English test is 70 minutes, 70. Test Nav mistakenly puts it at 67.5. So it's not a lot of minutes, but for some students it does mean one or two extra questions that they could answer and possibly get correct. So so that's the reason why those are the only 2 timing codes where the computer does not keep track of it. So that's timing code 6 and timing code 7. So there's a form that the room supervisor has to complete for those 2 timing codes. Number 7, based on the ACT Online Administration Manual, which of the following actions must be done by the test coordinator and not by the room supervisor? So the test coordinator must prepare test sessions and they must start test sessions. Number 8, students will need to complete the non-test activities for testing in MyACT. All of the following are acceptable ways for a student to complete the non-test information in MyACT except, and then at the time the correct answer was asking examinees to complete this the morning of test day in the test room. So ACT says since it is an online test, you can do that the morning of, but do not do that because this is going to cause a lot of problems with the room supervisor going in to open Testnav. So the students go in a different place to do the non-test portion. They go to MyACT. So they do the morning. What's going to happen is that the students are going to have to log out of that. Then the room supervisor has to go one by one and click on that Pearson Test Nav icon to open the test to make sure it's in the right place. So you're wasting some time by having students do this. So the best thing to do is have students do it before test day, during school, or just have it do it on their own, which some of you do. Question 9. A student is scheduled to take the standard time test on Wednesday, March 9th. The student is absent on March 9th. True or false? You can test a student on Thursday, March 10th, and not wait until window 2. The answer is true. Number 10, and the final question. Online testing is available on which days? And then select all that apply. So online testing is only available on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So that was quiz number 1 from last week. So let's go ahead and look at the agenda again. So there are 3, let me go ahead and expand this a little bit more. So there are, number 3, reminder of recent tasks. So there are 3 tasks that you had to work on recently. So task 12 was reconsideration for authorized accommodations. So the deadline to send documentation into TA was this past Friday. So you had to go back into TAA to determine which students that you requested accommodations for was not fully approved. So it's partially approved or not approved, you can do a reconsideration for authorized accommodations. And the window for that is January 10th through the 28th. Task 13, rooms needed for testing. So let me go ahead and move this out of the way. So I sent you all a Google form to complete. It was in an email to determine what rooms you're going to use for ACT testing for online. And so far, these are the only schools that sent me information. So Baton Rouge High, Terra, Liberty High, Broadmoor High, Woodlawn, and EBR Virtual. So the IT department needs this information because they have to go to the school and manually download Testnav on each of those desktops in the rooms that you specify. So make sure that you send me that information. So to get that information, which I already sent in an email, but if you didn't do it, or if you can't find that email, then go to Coordinator Task and go to Task 13. So it says Task 13, rooms needed for testing. Click on the down arrow. And we click on the down arrow and open it up. The link to that form is at the bottom. So you'll see it right here. All right, so make sure you do this so IT can go and download Testnav on those desktops in those rooms. So let's continue on with that agenda. So the other, I'll go ahead and get that agenda back up. Let's see. Oops. So task 14 was information on how to enroll or unenroll students in PA Next. All right, so that's task 14. So that's this one right here. And that's a video. So if you have any students that came to your school after or before testing, if they came to your school from another school, let's say out of the state, or if they came from another district, then you need to do an enroll or unenroll. So an enroll would be a student that you need to add to PANX, and an unenroll is a student you need to remove. So if you have a student that, let's say, a senior that scored a 34 and you have them in PANX and you need to remove them, just go ahead and unenroll. Don't keep the student in there, just go ahead and do an unenroll. And so this video will explain how to do that. Then the next task, so you have some new tasks. So you have task 15, which is provide students with a document preparing for the ACT test in Testnav. And Testnav is already on one of the apps in the kiosk. Students will move this. So students will then click on the ACT. These are actual tests that are given in the past. So for example, let me show you what that looks like. So remember, it's already on the Chromebook. But let me show you that document. So this is test 15. So here's test 15. So we talked about this last time. Remember what that looks like. So if I click on it, and it's downloading at the bottom. When I click on it and open it up, this is what it looks like. So remember we talked about, we didn't spend a lot of time on it, but notice right here on page 2, I think, this is page 2 or 3, it says download.testnav.com. So students can download Testnav on their personal computers at home, and they could use that. It's the same, it will be the same icon that they would use when they go to the school to actually take the ACT test. But the good thing about this is that they're practice tests. So make sure that you provide students with this, because they do need to start practicing with this. All right, and so let me just kind of show you what that looks like. So when they successfully download it on their personal computer, let's see, you see that icon right here, Testnav? So when I click on it, and it's starting Testnav, and let's see, it's still okay. Just wait a few more seconds. There we go. All right, so this is what they're going to see, and this is what the room supervisor, remember the room supervisor for each of those computers that the students are using on test day, the room supervisor has to go to each one and make sure that when they click on Testnav, when the room supervisor clicks on Testnav, this is what they see. But down here, there are practice tests. So if you click on that, you'll see all these practice tests for English, math, reading, science, and there's writing also. But if students are going to a university where they require writing for admission, they could practice with this as well. And then there's the examining tutorial. So it's important that they start looking at this now. All right. So up here, though, let me just kind of show you, if for some reason when the room supervisor goes and clicks on the icon and they don't see the ACT, which is what they're supposed to see, you just go here and go to choose a different customer. So choose a different customer, and it will take you back to something that looks like this. And this is the one they need. So the room supervisor needs to make sure that the one they click on is called the ACT. And when they click on the ACT, it needs to look like this, Test Nav, and then right on the Test Nav is the word the ACT. And then the authorization tickets, remember, we talked about that last time. That's a username and password, and that's what they would enter here. Okay? All right, so that is what students would see on test day, and this is what they would see when they download Testnav on their home computer, and also when they click on Testnav in their Chromebook. So let me show you in the Chromebook where this is located. So in the Chromebook, so when students log into Chromebooks, log into Testnav using Chromebooks, when they open the Chromebook without actually logging in, when they open it up, they'll see that kiosk apps right here. So they're going to click on this. Then step 2 is they're going to see Testnav. So they click on Testnav. And then step 3, just like you saw, when they click on Testnav, it's opening up Testnav, it's starting Testnav. And then, just like you saw a while ago, they're going to click on the ACT. When they click on the ACT, you're going to get, and I turned it off before, but when you click on the ACT, you're going to get this screen. So let me show you what that looks like. So you can get this screen here. Okay. All right. So that's where students go to log into Testnav using Chromebooks. It's very important that you have them do that now, so that if any errors, you can get IT using a help desk ticket. You can get IT to fix those errors on those Chromebooks. All right, and then task 16, where it says qualified exceptions to the deadline for ACT authorized accommodations, and that window is January 17th through the 4th. So the qualified exception to the deadline, let me go ahead to the Canvas course. So the qualified exception to deadline, that is task number 16. So if I click on the down arrow right here, and I open it up, and it's still opening. So when it finally opens, the qualified exception deadline is for if you have any students that come to your school, let's say after that published deadline last week, then you need to do a qualified exception to the deadline. Here are the instructions, but here are the criteria. So one is that students transfer to our school after the published accommodation support request, and you have to complete all this information. The other one was that student was classified into a new grade level after the published accommodation support request deadline. The other one is that student was evaluated, given a new diagnosis, and started on a new accommodation support plan after the published accommodations request deadline. The other one is student was identified as an English learner and started receiving language supports after the published accommodation support request deadline. And the last one, student had a medical emergency or a sudden onset of a medical condition after the published accommodation supports deadline. So those are the only criteria. All right, so if you forgot to put in a TAA accommodations request before a student that was at your school before that published deadline last week, you cannot use this. The student's going to have to take the standard time test. You could also give the student a waiver and have the student take the test nationally, and you could do special testing on that. All right, and then don't forget the let's see, and don't forget the bottom part. You have to make sure you complete the bottom part as well. So that is the task on completing the qualified exception to the deadline. And so task number 17, which is the task we're at right now, is the verify match no match list. So if you click on this, and let's see, let's go ahead and open it up. All right, task 17 is where you're going to verify the match no match list, and those for seniors only. And so this list is of seniors at your school. So this list contains seniors with an ACT score, and the ACT score listed is the highest. So if they took the test 5 times, then only the highest will be listed. And then seniors without an ACT score. The match list consists of students with an ACT score. The no match list consists of students without an ACT score. So once LDOE uploads to juniors and those seniors without an ACT score, you need to then go in to verify the match no match list for the seniors. For those students, and when I say students, I mean those seniors, for those seniors on the no match list, remember these are seniors who do not have an ACT score, you need to check to see if that student is in PA Next. LDOE will upload the juniors and seniors without an ACT score soon. Once LDOE uploads the juniors and seniors without an ACT score, you will need to verify the no match list against the students in PA Next. If a senior is on the no match list and is not in PA Next, you will need to submit the Sdu file to enroll that student. And then information, remember to complete the upload was a previous task. All right, so Debbie will send you today the match no match list. Remember that she sends 2 emails. The first email is your password to get that, to open up that file, and the second email is actually the spreadsheet. And there'll be 2 tabs. One tab will say match, and the other tab will say no match. All right, so that is the task. That is task 17. Verify the match no match list, and either today or tomorrow, LDOE will upload the juniors and those seniors that an ACT score. Once that's done, make sure you conduct task 17. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the online manual. We're going to look at makeup testing, and that's that video. We're going to look at that video, and that goes with pages 10 and 11. So let me go ahead and start that video. Don't ask any questions until the video is completed. So that's the video on makeup testing. All right, so we're going to look at the makeup testing information that is in the Spring 2022 Administration Manual for State and District Testing. And this is going to be for both standard time and accommodations. All right, so on page 10, under makeup testing, eligibility for makeup testing. For the ACT taken online, if you are unable to administer the test to an examinee due to absence or illness, you may reschedule that examinee to test on another day within your testing window. You may not reschedule examinees who completed testing or were dismissed for prohibited behavior. Examinees dismissed for prohibitive behavior are not permitted to test in any other test session. This includes testing via paper. Note, if you have any paper testing examinees at your school who missed their initially scheduled test date, they may be eligible to use the online window to complete makeup testing. This will allow the examinees to test sooner rather than waiting for the scheduled paper subsequent test date. If you are unsure if the examinee's accommodations can be provided in an online format, please contact ACT for assistance. All right, makeup for single day testing. Makeup for single day testing. Just a reminder, single day testing would be timing code 1, which is standard time, timing code 5, which are the breaks as needed. Remember, breaks as needed are done in a single day, and timing code 6. Remember, timing code 6 is 1 1/2 time in a single day. So those 3 timing codes are done in a single day. So again, timing code 1, which is standard time, timing code 5, breaks as needed, and timing code 6, which is 1 1/2 time. Now, just a reminder, breaks as needed cannot exceed a total of 90 minutes. All right, so let's continue with that section on makeup testing for single day testing. For single day testing, reschedule an examinee if he or she, bullet number 1, was absent for or was not admitted to the test session, such as did not log in to Test Nav. Bullet number 2, began testing but did not complete all tests, such as an illness. Use the table below to determine your action. If the examinee did not log in and will take a makeup session, then the test coordinator will remove the examinee from the test session and assign him or her to another test session in Pearson Access Next. Note, when you move the student to a new test session, you will need to print a new student authorization ticket. So let's look at what this looks like in PA Next, in Pearson Access Next. So I'm going to go to testing, and I'm going to go to sessions, and it's going to list all my sessions. Now remember, the test coordinator should remove the student, but I do believe that the room supervisor has that ability as well. But for makeup testing, here's what you can do. So if a student did not log in and will take a makeup session, we need to remove the examinee from the test session and assign him or her to another test session in Pearson Access Next. So let's go to, I want to go to this test session right here. So, and notice that the session status, and we've talked about some of this in a previous session. See, it says not prepared, in progress. This one stopped, and this says in progress. So by the time you're ready for ACT testing in March, you will understand what all of this means and how all of this came to be under the session status. But let's go to this session here. So I'm going to go ahead and check it off. And remember, we need to go to the task pane here. We're going to click on Show Students in Sessions and Control Sessions. That's where you must go. All right, once you do that, we get this information. Notice there's only one session here. And just a reminder, you have different colors here, gray, red, and light blue or teal. And that corresponds to these colors right here. So notice I have 2 students that logged into Test Nav and exited. That's what that means. Okay? I have 1 student that went through all 4 tests and completed the test session. So they completed all 4 tests. And then I have 1 student that did not start. So what I want to do at the end of, let's say this is a standard time, a single day test, which is what we're talking about, single day test. The student did not show up, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, I need to go ahead and remove the student out of that session. So to remove the student out of the session, here's what you do. You're going to click on the little checkbox next to the student's name right here. So notice there's a check now. We're going to go back to the task pane, okay? We're then going to go to right here where it says under students, remove students from session. Before I do that, let's go ahead and make a note of the student that I'm removing. So I'm going to go ahead and write down the student code. I don't know if we can use that in here, but we do need the student's last name. So in this case, the student's last name is last AN, and then I'm just going to put the student code 577594277. So I just wrote down that information. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to click on Remove Students from Sessions. Okay, click on this, and then you're going to start. Go to Start. So by the time we get into a week before testing, you and your test coordinator should be able to do this very easily. So we're going to click on the student that needs to be removed. We're going to click on Task Pane right here. Click on Task Pane. Then go to and click on Remove Students from Sessions. Then we go to Start. Watch what happens when I click on Start. So when I click on Start, it's still moving. When I click on Start, all right. Now notice we get this information. So remove students from sessions. So I want to remove the one I just spoke about. And so that is going to be the one with the last 4 numerical digits being 4277. So that's this one right here. So I'm going to click on this. That's the student I want to remove, right? I'm going to click on this. And then I'm going to click on Remove. You have to do that as well. So click on that. And before I do that, notice that this one you cannot remove. Students cannot be removed from sessions with current status. So see the status is marked complete. Once a student is marked complete, or once a student is complete, you cannot remove a student from a session. You can only remove a student from a session if the student has not logged into Test Nav. In this particular case that we're looking at. Okay, so to see those 2 readies, I can remove those 2 students from the test session. But for this particular test session I'm looking at, I only want to remove this student. So we're going to click on the little box next to the student's name, and then I'm going to click on Remove. Okay? Alright, so it says changes saved. Then I'm going to go to, and look, that student is no longer in this list. So then I'm going to go to Exit Task. I'm going to go to Exit Task, and I want to show you something. So notice that we're still in this session right here, this test session that I created, and that student is no longer there. Okay? All right, so the student's no longer there. Now what I want to do now is, remember, I'm going to show you what you have to then do. All right, so notice, remove the examinee from the test session, which we just did, right? And assign him or her to another test session in Pearson Access Next. So I'm going to go and I'm going to show you what you would then have to do. Okay, so I'm going to go back to testing. Go back to testing. I'm going to go to sessions. And so I'm going to put that student that we just removed into makeup number 2 right here. So I'm going to click on the little box. I am then going to go to the pane right here. And I'm going to click on Add Remove Students in Sessions. So I'm going to click on Add Remove Students in Sessions. I'm going to go to Start. Okay. I'm going to go to Start. And by the way, before I do that, you see this little makeup number 2? See where it says number of students? There's no students in there yet. See? There's 1 student in the first one, 1 student in that third session, 3, 3, and 8. But none in this one. All right, so I wanted you to be aware of that. So I'm going to, again, click on Add Remove Students in Sessions. Go to Start. Go to Start. And then we got to find that student. All right, so you can find by name or ID. So I'm going to go ahead and do that ID. And the ID was 57759, and that was it right here. Right here. See that one? Okay. So then here it is. You must click on that student right here. Right here. Click on that. And then we're going to save. So let's see what happens when I save. And so when I save, it says changes made. And then I'm going to go ahead and exit. I'm going to go ahead and exit. And I'm going to come back to sessions right here. And notice there's 1 student in that session now. So if you want to see what students in that session and make sure you did this correctly, go back to testing. I'm sorry, it's already checked off. So go back to the select panes. Show students in sessions and control sessions. And notice in that 1 makeup test right here, there's that student. Okay, and that student is locked. Students is locked. When you get ready to test a student, remember you have to prepare the session. All right, but that student is locked and ready. You just got to prepare the session. Okay, so that is, I'm going to remove this. So that is this first part here. So student did not log in and will take a makeup session. You are then going to remove the examinee from the test session and assign him or her to another test session in Pearson Access Next. All right, now remember, once we did that, when you're ready to test that student, you will then have to print the new student authorization ticket with a new username and password. All right, let's look at the second one now. If the examinee began but did not finish and will take a makeup test, change the test status to marked complete and provide a detailed reason. You must contact ACT to create a new test registration. All right, so remember, you must contact ACT to request a new test registration. So if a student began but did not finish and will take the makeup, so for example, the student took test number 1, got ill, went home, let's say. And so all in this, remember, this is all in single day testing. Got ill, then the student's going to retake all 4 tests on another day. But you have to mark this test status as marked complete and provide a detailed reason. So let me show you how to do that. So let's go back. I'm going to go back to Pearson Access Next. I'm going to go to testing. I'm going to show all sessions. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, let's go back, and I think we can go back to the one we were working with earlier. I'm going to go back to this one right here, and I'm going to go to the task pane. I'm going to click on Show Students in Sessions and Control Sessions. And click on this. You must click on this for the students to show up, and the students are showing up. Okay? All right. So you see those exited right here? So the student, in one instance, actually in both, in one instance, this student right here was in the middle of English, and actually just went ahead and logged out of Test Nav. Do not tell students to log out of Test Nav for single day testing. All right, this particular student took Test 1 and logged out of Test Nav. All right, now the student number 2 got ill, okay, got ill, and the student needs to leave, right? So then you would tell the student to log out of Test Nav. So the student gets ill and gets ill at the end of Test 1. Is not coming back for Test 2. Have them log out of Test Nav. Okay. All right. If the student let's say, all right, let's suppose during Test 1, this student right here leaves to go to the restroom. Do not tell the student to log out of Test Nav, because if the student logs out of Test Nav, the timer stops. All right, so once a student logs out of Test Nav, the timer stops. So it is very important that students understand that they should never themselves log out of Test Nav. That should come by the room supervisor. The room supervisor needs to determine that. If a student is leaving to go to the restroom, do not have the student log out of Test Nav. The student loses a time. The timer continues, and the room supervisor must keep track of the time lost. Okay, we're going to talk about that some more later. All right. If a student at the end of Test 1 becomes ill, all right, at the end of Test 1 becomes ill, then and has to leave, then go ahead and have the student log out of Test Nav. Okay. All right. Now, okay, with all that being said, we're still trying to work on the second one. The examinee began but did not finish, and we'll take a makeup session. So we're going to change the test status to marked complete and provide a detailed reason. Now remember, you're going to contact ACT to request a new test registration. So let me go back and pull this over. And so here's how you're going to do this. Let's suppose we're going to have this student, which has already started the test, student number 2 right here, that has already started the test. I'm going to go ahead and have that student got sick at the end of Test 1, and I'm going to go ahead and have that student do a makeup. Okay, so here's how you're going to do this. You got to make sure that this goes from exited to marked complete. You have to right here where it says marked complete. Okay, so let's go ahead and see this. And you're all going to have this situation probably. So you can click on the box right here. Click on the box. And we're going to go back to that task pane. Click on the task pane. and you see where it says Mark Student Test Complete, you're going to click on that box. Then you're going to go to Start. And when you do that, here is what happens. It's still turning. All right, there we go. All right, so here's the one I need to move right here. So I'm going to click on this box right here. Oh, by the way, you got to do a reason. So I'm going to say a detailed reason. See the little asterisk right here? All right, so you're going to say student became ill during test 1, let's say. All right. Went home. Went home. Will take a makeup. Will take a makeup. Okay, so student became ill during test 1. Went home, will take a makeup. All right, so then I'm going to click on the little box. You must click on the box next to the student's name. And now, well, before I do that, let me show you what happened. See how this mark complete was a different blue? Then when I clicked on it, it became darker blue. So it was a lighter blue, and now it's a darker blue. So it kind of became bolded, let's say. So click on the box, becomes bolded, darker blue. Now click on Mark Complete. And before I do that, I want to show you. See how it says Exit right here for that student? When I click on it, it now becomes, watch what happens, it now becomes marked complete. Okay? All right, so that student is now marked complete. So I'm going to go ahead and exit task. And see that student that I had checked off? It now says mark complete. All right, now let me remind you the difference between mark complete and completed. So mark complete is something that the room supervisor or test coordinator does. Completed means that the student completed all 4 tests on their own. That's what that means. All right, so students submitted test 1, submitted test 2, submitted test 3, submitted test 4. That's what that means. Mark complete is something the room supervisor did or the test coordinator did. All right, so that is how you are going to mark a student test as complete. All right, just a reminder where it says the note, examinees must take all tests in the makeup session even if some were completed in initial session. Tests from one session cannot be combined with tests from another session. So just like paper testing from previous years, if a student took one test, it got ill, and went home, then when you did the makeup, the student had to take all 4 again. Okay, so that's what that's saying. All right, so now we're going to look at makeup testing for multiple day testing. So that's the other timing codes. So for multiple day testing, reschedule an examinee if he or she, bullet number 1, was absent, such as did not log in to Test Nav for that sitting, or bullet number 2, logged into Test Nav for that sitting, but did not enter the seal code to begin the test. All right, so, and then we're going to use a table to determine your action. So again, for multiple day testing, reschedule an examinee if he or she was absent during that test, whatever the test may be, test 2, test 3, test 4, test 1, did not log in to Test Nav for that sitting. If the student logged into Test Nav for that sitting but did not enter the seal code to begin the test, then you can reschedule an examinee for that test. Okay? But once the student enters the seal code, you cannot retest that student on that test. All right, so once that student enters the seal code, you cannot retest the student. So for multiple day testing, reschedule an examinee if he or she was absent or logged into Test Nav for that sitting but did not enter the seal code to begin the test. All right, let's use the table to determine your action.
All right, if the examinee will take the missed test, then the test coordinator will reschedule the student to test on another day in the current online test window and resume the examinee's test in Pearson Access on the makeup test day. Second one, logged into Test Nav, but will not take the missed test. In other words, will not finish testing. You're going to change the test status to mark complete and provide a detailed reason. So we all know how to do the second one. We all know how to change the test status to mark complete now. And again, when you do a mark complete, you are required to provide a detailed reason. The third one, did not log into Testnav. So the examinee did not log into Testnav and will not take the missed test, then remove the examinee's test from the test session. All right, so just a reminder, whenever, and I'm looking at, let's just go back to testing sessions, and let me find one. So still turning. Let me go to, let's say, this one here. I want to see what's in this one. So I'm going to go to show students. Oops. Show students. All right, so there are no students. Oops. All right. Okay, so I have these students here. Notice two says mark complete, all the others says ready. So let me just remind you. So the third one says, if the examinee did not log into Testnav and will not take the missed test. So notice, ready right here means that none of those examinees logged into Testnav. That's what that means. Okay? So did not log into Testnav and will not take the missed test, then remove the examinee from the test session. So remember, before you can mark a test complete, or before you can stop a session, I should say, before you can stop a session, you must remove any student with ready. So let's say we need to remove this one. So let me just remind you how to do that. Remove a student. So let's say we're going to remove this one. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to task pane. I'm going to say remove students from session, and then start. And that was this one. Oops, I forgot which one I was going to remove. I should have kept track of it. Let's just say it was this one right here. Yeah, it was in this one here. So it was that one. So click on remove, and changes were saved. Changes were saved, and then let's go ahead and exit test. All right. So that's how you remove a student, and we did it a while ago as well. Okay. So if an examinee will take the missed test, then reschedule the student to test another day in the current online test window and resume the examinee's test in Pearson Access Next on the makeup test day. Second one, log into Test Nav, but will not take the missed test. In other words, will not finish testing. Change the test status to mark complete and provide a detailed reason. If the examinee did not log into Test Nav and will not take the missed test, remove the examinee's test from the test session. Note, if an examinee is absent for a group sitting, he or she can make up the test and then rejoin the group for the next sitting as long as everyone will be taking the same test at the same time. If the examinee cannot take the missed test in time to rejoin the next group sitting, you may need to reschedule all remaining tests for that examinee individually. All right, so if an examinee is absent for a group sitting, he or she can make up the missed test, and then rejoin the group for that next sitting as long as everyone will be taking the same test at the same time. If the examinee cannot take the missed test in time to rejoin the next group sitting, you may need to reschedule all remaining tests for that examinee individually. So for example, let's say it's over multiple days, and you do one test in one day, one test another day, and you do the 2 remaining tests, which are shorter, in one day. So let's say over 3 days. If you do it consecutively, like let's say, remember this is online, so let's say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Remember, online testing is only Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So if you do it consecutively like that, chances are you're going to have some students that will miss that day. You cannot put that student back in that session if they're working on different tests. So you may have to then test that student separately in comparison to the others in a different room. Okay? So every student in that room must be working the same test. All right. Okay, now, so you remember right here where it says if the student will take the missed test. Remember, this is over multiple days, right? So the student will take the missed test. So test number 1 the student took. So remember, at the end of test number 1 on multiple days, the student's going to log out of Test Nav. Okay? You're going to log out of Test Nav. Then on whenever the student comes back to take test number 2, the student is going to resume the online testing. So here's how you're going to do the resume. All right, so let me go to an example. So let's suppose I went to a test session, and you see where it says exited, marked complete, or completed. So this student, let's say, the one that says exited, let's say the student took test number 1 on one day. So at the end of the day, the student logs out of Test Nav. Okay? So to get ready for the next day, though, we've got to come back and resume testing for that student or those students. They're all going to say exited after that one day. So we're going to click on this student. If this is a student I need to resume, we're going to click on that student. I'm going to go to the task pane and see where it says resume student test. So I'm going to click on resume. I'm going to click on start, and that's the one I need to resume right here. And then we click resume, and now exited becomes this orange resumed. So the student is now ready to take that second test the next day. Okay, so that's how you're going to change to resumed. All right, so that's going to take care of this section of the administration manual dealing with makeup testing. If you have any questions, just make sure you ask. Okay, so so that was the video on makeup testing, and there are a couple of questions such as if in terms of makeup for a standard time student, let's suppose the standard time student, you had scheduled the student to take the test on Monday. I'm sorry, remember online testing is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So let's say on Tuesday, the student did not show up, right? So you could schedule any other day in either window 1 or window 2. It does not matter. All right. Now, if let's say the standard time student was there on Tuesday, took test number 1, got ill, and then left. All right. So you had to, your room supervisor would have had to have the student log out. So now the student has to take what we call a makeup. So in that case, you would need to contact ACT to do a new registration, but you can still have that student take the 4 tests. They have to remember they have to redo the 4 tests during that same window 1. All right, and the same thing for accommodations. So if a student had accommodations over multiple days, and you had the student took test 1 on Tuesday, test 2 on Wednesday, did not show up on Thursday, you can have them take the last 2 tests on that Monday. All right, but let's suppose the student for some reason never showed up for the remaining days of that window. Then
you're going to have to do the makeup on window 2, and the student has to retake the whole test, all 4 tests. Okay, so that's how the makeup testing window, or not window, but the makeup testing works. So if you have any questions, though, you need to ask for clarification. All right, so that was the makeup testing. Now for the video on testing staff requirements, page 16 and 17, I'm not going to be able to have time to do this today, so I need you to do this on your own. So when you come back on Thursday of next week for training number 6, quiz number 3 will have questions from testing staff requirements. So let me remind you where those are located. So the video for that, you're going to go to Home, and see where it says Online Admin Manual Trainings. So you're going to go there, and then that's the one right here. So Testing Staff Requirements, pages 16 and 17. All right, so it's important that you as a test coordinator look at this, because there's information in there in terms of requirements as to who can serve as room supervisor. Okay, who can serve as testing staff. Same thing for test coordinator. Test coordinator, there are certain requirements for test coordinator as well. Remember, one of them is that you cannot have a relative taking the test on the same day as you are serving as test coordinator. Also, if you're an athletic coach, or I forgot what they call that, or the person that's over all athletics at your school, you cannot serve as test coordinator. That's an ACT requirement. You cannot be a test coordinator. You can serve as a room supervisor as long as you're not doing one-on-one with a student athlete, but you cannot serve as a test coordinator. So that's what this video is about. So I need for you all to make sure you're looking at this so you don't get any voids in March on ACT. Okay. All right. So now let's continue looking at the agenda. So now the next thing I want to look at is see where it says download Test Nav on your computer. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to make sure that on the computer you are using right now or in your classroom, I need for you to get this icon. See this icon right here that's on mine? Pearson Test Nav. All right, so I need for you to have that, because that's going to be important when we continue talking about the mock administration. All right, so to get that, I need for you to go to your address bar, and I need for you to type in this information. So you're going to type in, let me make it larger. So you're going to type in the address bar. You're going to type in download testnav.com. All right, download testnav.com. So go ahead and do that. And when you get to it, when you do that, you're going to get to a page, and there's going to be 2 things listed. The one I need for you to use is the one that's called windows.msi. Windows.msi. Before we go any further, the test nav should already be on your EBR managed Chromebook. So if your school gave you as an employee a managed Chromebook, make sure you look at that. We saw how where that is on the Chromebook earlier. All right. So these are the test nav is already in the kiosk on the EBR managed Chromebook. Just make sure you go you click on those icons to make sure that you don't get any errors. All right. So let's go ahead and download Testnav on your desktop. So download.testnav.com. And when you do that, click on Windows.msi. And then move everything away, and you should then see, let me go ahead and move everything away myself. You should then see this icon, Pearson Test Nav. Okay, and And that's what you're going to use to practice with the mock administration as well. All right, so make sure you go ahead and do that. All right, so that was number 6. All of you should have done that. It is not a difficult process. All right, and also one of the questions was this: what about the room supervisors? Will the IT department download this on the room supervisor's desktop? If you put it in a help desk ticket, they will, but it's just so much easier for the room supervisors on their desktop just to do what you just did. Just go ahead and click on download.testnav.com. Very simple process. Don't forget though, make sure they click on the one that says, let me go back, the one that says Windows .msi, okay, Windows.msi. All right, and then finally, the next thing I want to look at is start talking about setting up test sessions. And so what I need for you to do is this now. I need for you to go in your address bar and type in training. And let me see, I need to go to the address bar to actually get the actual website. So we're going to go to training.testadmin.act.org. All right, so training, we're going to type it out. So you're going to go to training.testadmin.act.org. And when you type that in, you will get something that looks like PA Next. Watch. You see that? You get something that looks like PA Next, except the color here is brown. And notice it says training. So that's where you're going to go. That's where your room supervisors are going to go to train for ACT Online. That's where you're all going to go. Now, just like you did with PA Next, you're going to sign in, and the information you put here is the same as you did with PA Next. So it's the same username, the same password. So go ahead and do that. All right. So the training site is the same as the PA Next site in terms of username and password. All right. And when you do that, this is what you get. So in all those videos, you kept seeing this page, right? And that's the page. That's the training page, and that's the page that you're going to use to help you with that mock administration. Notice at the top it says training here. It says ACT Contract Training 2022. Normally in regular PA Next, it'll say ACT Spring 2022. And then just make sure it has your school name here. So I'm going to go ahead and use the one that I was using in the videos. And you'll notice that just as you saw in the videos, if I go to testing and I go to sessions, those are the sessions. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this number 7 in the agenda, setting up test sessions. So again, training.testadmin.act.org. Your username and password is the same, or I should say, or the same, I guess, or the same as you would use to get into PA Next. So we're going to look at 2 things today, and we're going to look at some others next Thursday when we meet again Thursday. We're going to look at creating test sessions, and we're going to look at assigning examinees to a test session. And those are on page 41 and 43. So let's go ahead and look at the manual. So here's we're on page 41 right here. All right, so make sure you have that on the side. That's why I asked you to have 2 computers. One where you could you would have the meeting in front of you, and the other one where you could look at things like this and look at different sites that we need to go to. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is we're going to follow all these steps. Okay, now before I get started, you see where it says scheduled start date? You're going to select the date of the session. So if you're going to start on, let's say, March 9th, you're going to put March 9th, if that's when that session is going to test. If the session is for examinees testing with accommodations over multiple days, you're going to select the first date examinees will test. And then the scheduled start time, you're going to leave that, you can leave 1 a.m. as the default. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this. So I'm going to go through an example. All right, so here's what you can do. So step one, you're going to select, remember we're creating a test session. So step one, you're going to select sessions under testing, go to sessions. Then you're going to go to the task pane, and you're going to create and edit sessions. Oops, you're going to create and edit sessions right here. So you see the little box turn blue. Then you're going to go to start, and then you can complete all this information. So you have to think about how you're going to name your sessions. And some of you are, it's big schools, especially for standard time, will try and test all your students in one day. So you may be talking about at least 20 sessions. So you got to think about how to name this. And the way I would probably do it is let's say standard times. I'd say TC1, and then I would put the room supervisor's last name, because remember the room supervisor has to go in there and do some stuff, so they need to be able to see their session. So if you have their last name, it's so much easier for them to see their particular session that they have to be working with. So put dozat, and if you want to, and it's up to you how you name it, just make sure that you and your room supervisor are able to know what that is. So you say TC1 does that, and if you want to, you can put the date on which this session is remember, this is common timing code 1, so that's all in one day. You could put the date in which the session is given. All right, so however you want to do it. All right, so make sure it's easy for you to know what the session is, and also your room supervisor. It's helpful to have the room supervisor here. Someone mentioned about the room number. If you want to put the room number, that's fine, except it's very helpful to make sure you have that room supervisor's last name, because the room supervisor has to go and find their session, because they have some things that they have to do in PA Next when a session when working in a session. All right, so make sure they can see this. They can see it's theirs. So the next thing you do is make sure that your organization, your school is listed here. Then for tests assigned, we're going to go ahead and it's supposed to be multiple choice. It's not showing up. Let's see. I'm not sure. It's still searching. Okay, so it'll be ACT multiple choice. Start date, the scheduled start date. Make sure you put the date in which the test is given. So since this is timing code 1 is single day, you're going to put the date in which that's given. So let's say it's March, making this up, March 9th. Okay, so it's a Wednesday. And then the form group type, in this case, it will be a mock administration. And scheduled start time, just go ahead and leave it as the default, 1 a.m. Now remember the scheduled start date again. If it's over multiple days, you need to put on there the date of that first test. Okay. All right, and then right now we're not going to do pre-caching. IT feels that if each school can successfully accomplish the mock testing without any difficulties, then there's no need for pre-caching computers. So if that's the case, we're going to leave it blank as it is. Okay, and then as you create the session, if you already know what students are going to be in that session, then all you do is just click on the search and just let's say this student is one that needs to be in that session. You click on the student, see it shows up right here. Then do the next one, shows up. Do the next one, shows up. Do the next one, shows up. You got to find it though, and then so on. All right. So I'm just going to leave that many in here. and then you click create. And then watch what happens. So if I go back to this right here, just to show you, if I go back to this, and by the way, you can create a new session again, so you can keep on creating sessions. So if you want to create another session, you can go ahead and do that at this point. But I want to show you real quick though. See where it says TC Dozat Room 121? Click on that, and then scroll down, and you'll see the students listed. Okay. All right. So that is. And notice right here it says session has not started, right? It should not have started. Okay, now let's go ahead and exit. So I'm going to go ahead and exit. And then you'll now see the session created. See right here? So TC1 does that, room 121, not prepared. And there are 5 students in there. All right. Now, the next thing I want to look at on the agenda, if you go back to the agenda, so now we know how to create a session, and we also know how to, as we create a session, we know how to add students to that session as we create a session. Not a difficult process. Very simple task for you to do. The next thing I want to do, though, on the agenda is to show you how to assign examinees to a test session. That's on page 43. Now, what that means is this. So let's suppose one day you go ahead and you create a test session. So let's go back and create another test session. So I'm going to go to testing. I'm going to go to that pane. I'm going to say create edit sessions. Go to start. And then click up here, create test session. See right here? So create session. All right, so let's go ahead and create another one. So let's say this is timing code 6, and let's say it's Wells. And if you want to put the room number, you can. If you want to put the test date, you can as well. It's up to you how you name it. Make sure that it's easy for the room supervisor to find their session. And it's easy if their last name is there. If they see that last name, they know it's theirs. They won't mess up on anyone else's. All right, and then you do test assigned. So that's going to be ACT. The start date, let's say, is March 11th. Oh, we can't use 11. 11 is on a Friday. So remember, online is only on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So let's say the 10th. All right. You're going to do the form group type. You're going to leave 1 a.m. as the default. And I'm not, so let's say I don't know the students yet. All I want to do is create a test session, right? So just create, all right, and you're done. You're done with creating the session. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. You see it's up here. See the session you created? Wells, room 131. So I'm going to go ahead now and exit the task, and I'm going to go to home just to show you something. So let's say the next day you come back and you figured out what students are going to be in Wells's session. So you're going to go back to testing. You're going to go back to sessions. See sessions. And let me go ahead and take those 2 checks off. All right. So then, all right. So let me show you where we're on. Let me get to that document. So we are on page. Okay, right here. So assign examinees to a session. So we're going over this right now. So I'm going to go ahead and follow those steps and show you how to do that. So I'm going to move this away now. Okay. And here's what you do. It's a very simple process. All right. So you're going to go to testing, which you already did. You're going to go to sessions, which you already did, right? Okay. You're going to check the box. You're going to check the box next to the session to which examinees are to be added. So I'm going to go back to Wells. So Wells is the one I need to add things to, right? Add students to. So I checked on it. Then in the task pane, you're going to go to show students in sessions and control sessions. Don't go to add remove students in sessions. Don't go there. You must go here. That's important. You have to go to show students in sessions and control sessions. So make sure you're following the steps. All right, go there. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to click on the session and student lists. Session lists right here. Click on that. And so far we have, well, see, we already put stuff in that session. There's some students already in that session, so I'm not sure. Oh, I know what happened. Okay, let me go back. I did the wrong session. So this was a session previously. So let me go back. So there are two wells. Let me go back and show you. All right, so I'm going to testing, sessions. All right, that's not the one. I need the one with the other wells. That's this one. Okay, I apologize. See there, 0 students here? Okay, so let me go there. That's the one I just created a while ago. All right, so I'm going to go back to task, show students in, this are here. Oops, sorry. Okay, so this is one where we went to show students, testing, sessions. Let's do it again. Okay, so check this session. I need to add students in. Go here, show students in sessions and control sessions, right? Okay. So notice when I click on this session here, click on it, there's nothing there, right? So I have to add students. So once I do that, then I go back to the task pane, and now you get something that looks different. And so what you want to do now is go to add students to sessions, go to start, and next go to the session drop down, click on TC Wells room 131, and then right here you can search by last name, or you can see that little drop down, use that drop down, and then show our results. And these are the students that you can pick from, right? Notice I want you to notice something. See what it says? It says available. So whenever you add students to a session, the student is no longer in the available list. So it helps you in terms of having so many. Some of you could have 600 students that you have to deal with. So every time you create a session, that student is removed from that list. All right, so you just go through and you pick the students that you need to have in that session. All right, and once you do that, then you can go here to add, or you can scroll all the way to the bottom to add. Does not matter. So I'm going to go to add, and so let's see. So all right, up here it says success, changes saved. So then I'm going to go to exit. Let's go to exit. And then notice right here, see we're on Wells, right? Right here. Notice it's not prepared. So remember at one point right below, right the day before testing, you have to go in, the test coordinator has to go in and prepare the session. And these are the students. Those are the students you add. So that's how you can add, students to a session after you've created the session. So once you create the session, you can go back later, add students by going to these steps right here. Okay, and so next time we're going to talk about removing examinees from test sessions. We're going to talk about deleting a test session. So we're going to do that next time. All right. So that is, I believe, that is the end of what I wanted to do today. So again, make sure your assignment is to make sure you look at that video right here that goes with pages 16 and 17, testing staff requirements. Quiz number 3, when you come in next week, quiz number 3 will include items from this video or these pages. Okay. All right, so that's going to be the end of the training for today. If you have any questions, please make sure you ask, email or call, and I will send the recording of this video to you as soon as possible. All right, so have a great day, and I'll see you next Thursday at 9 a.m. I will send the link to you, the invite, probably Monday or Tuesday of next week. Have a great day and a great weekend.